Here we go.
Come on.
Welcome to Drawing Hive.
Oh, we got some additional sound. All right.
I like it.
Now, Timmy, that totally threw me off. I had it
Oh,
all.
I'm so sorry. It's the Halloween
I'm
episode.
totally kidding.
The Halloween episode's about throwing people off.
Nothing can make me any better tonight. We've had a
Yeah.
long day. Welcome everybody. If you're here to draw, you're in the right place. Just a reminder, Drawing Hive is brought to you by Visual Arts Passage. What we do is we offer mentorships, online mentorships for people that want to develop in the professional world as illustrators and painters, and we do a superb job of it. So if you didn't know, you know now. So what we got tonight, we got the paranormal. Pulled some reference from, got some really fun shots. Timmy, you'll be able to tell me what everything's from because I don't remember at this point.
This one's from Talk to Me. We tried to hit, we always try to, whenever we do a theme, we try to hit all the generations. This is Gen Z. This is what you guys were given.
I know what that's from Ghost, Patrick Swayze.
Yeah. This is older people.
Careful.
Easy.
This is from The Conjuring.
Yeah, The
Still
Conjuring.
scares me.
I'm gonna give that to millennials.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking, Cassandra, who were you thinking about painting this tonight? Would you think about AJ?
Oh yeah.
He's gonna crush it. If he's here, he's gonna crush that
A
thing.
lot of people
totally.
already have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
can't remember what it's from.
Sixth Sense.
Yeah. Where I started. Sorry, everybody.
Yeah.
It's funny.
John's in charge of the educational segment tonight.
That's right. I'll do better on that.
Yeah, I bet.
We're ready to draw. We're going to be doing 3 poses, 2 20-minute poses and 1 40-minute pose. You can do all 4. You can do 1. You can do whatever. Since we give them out early, we've already seen things posted. So welcome, and we'll get drawing. Just a kind of fun note before we get started. Cassandra is in the room.
Yeah.
Scott Anderson's back visiting us tonight.
Woohoo.
Hey, everybody.
He couldn't stay away.
Couldn't stay away.
And then Timmy and I. So
Timmy's here.
And Timmy's here. Imagine that. I'm here.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
Yay.
And for anybody, please, if this is your first time joining, we're going to be drawing throughout the night. As John mentioned, we segment it out based on poses. Please share your work with us. Post it to Instagram with hashtag DrawingHive225. We're going to check it out at the end of the night. Post it as you go along. Cool. It's great to have you here, Scott. And also, this is your first voyage digitally on Drawing Hive, right?
Yeah. Thought I'd try it out.
Yeah.
Looks like we're not getting glare, so I think this will work. We were trying
Yeah,
to
it
share the
looks
screen
great.
with the iPad, but
I think it's
that
looking
wasn't
great.
working.
It's looking great. What are you in Procreate?
Yeah, the ever famous Procreate.
Nice. I would love to see Procreate Generation 1 interface versus the 2024. I bet it's pretty stunning how much it's developed.
No, it's funny. I mean, there's additional features for sure, but at least in terms of like what this part of it looks like, really the only part that's semi-new is the fact that they have this thing right here, which they call the reference pane, which is like, just a floating window where you can put your reference in and then you can, move it around and resize it and things like that. But other than that, I think the basics of, part of what made Procreate such a big success right from the start is that it was a simple interface, that people really responded to.
Do you know what, off the top of your head, what size iPad? Is that an iPad you're working with?
Yeah, iPad Pro 12.9.
Nice.
It's not like the newest one, but a generation or 2 behind.
If you could have like like let's assume cost is no issue. Like
Mhm.
how big of an iPad would you want to have?
You know, there was rumors for a little while circulating that Apple was looking at like a 15-inch screen iPad, and I
Yeah.
thought, you know, for drawing and painting, I'd be interested, you know,
Yeah.
for my illustration work. But for I also use this in the classroom as an educator, like for slideshows and things like that. For that
Yeah.
kind of thing, this format's honestly perfect. So
Yeah.
I suspect that those rumors were out for a while, and then nothing ever came of it. And I suspect that probably they did some internal testing and mock-ups and ultimately decided like, you know, like probably a pretty small
Yeah, it's a
group
great
of
travel
people that would
device.
actually used it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of people use it as, away from their studio, as a travel device, work with it on
Yeah.
the, that would definitely change that.
Yeah. If it got a little larger, again, yeah, it'd get a little trickier. So, but I'd be interested if they ever made one.
Anybody doing anything different tonight? John, Cassandra? It looks like everybody's kind of in their comfort zones for the Halloween episode. Is that
Yeah, yeah.
accurate?
If I finish this in time, I'm gonna pull out markers and do one of the other ones, but I wanted to try to paint Haley Joel Osment because I just loved the image so much.
Yeah, that's one of the first really terrifying movies I think I ever saw.
I remember I was like on a trip with my mom and we were up in Ottawa and we saw it in the movie theater and my dad was home with my brothers and we called them and we're like, go see this movie so we can talk about it with you guys.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so
Mm.
then they went that afternoon or like that evening to watch it and then they called us and they were like, "Oh my gosh."
um, it kind of was like the tail end of like that like 90s era where they were like, what if the whole thing that the movie is known for is the switch up at the end?
It was great. It got us good.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have a feeling that was part of the commercial success of it because I had friends who told me they immediately went and rewatched it.
Yeah. We were talking about this last week, Scott. It's a telling of the time that they can show the main character die in the opening scene, and then the whole movie can happen, and we
Yeah.
just all believed his wife just didn't talk to him.
Yeah. Right.
We were all
And
just like,
and
oh,
and and the mom,
classic. Yeah. Yeah.
there's a great scene where he's with I forget the name of the actress, Australian actress, but she played the mom
Tony
of
Collette.
Toni
Yeah.
Collette. That was it. There's a great scene where when you make the shift to the scene, it's Toni Collette and Bruce Willis, and she's looking down, and he looks really somber, and then Haley Joel
Yeah.
Osment enters the scene, and it's masterful storytelling because it creates the impression that they had just had like a session that the kid wasn't at, you know, and that they were both just kind of
Yeah.
like, oh, like this is heavy and this is rough. And then you go back and rewatch it and realize, oh no, she was just sitting waiting for her son to come home. You know, like I mean, I just thought
Uh-huh.
that was maybe the best and smartest kind of, you know, fake out of the whole thing.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's a really good one to
Yeah.
point out.
I mean that definitely had to have been like a genre at the by the end of it, because they were just like, I'm pretty sure this followed Fight Club. I can't remember which one happened before, but they were just like, man, people love these switch ups.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Good point. I don't remember. I think Sixth Sense came first.
I think you're right. But anybody doing anything? Scott, what's your Halloween plan next week? Because we're not everybody, you got to find Halloween plans because there's no drawing hive on Halloween.
Yeah, my wife and I just discussed it. So our kids are now at the age. I've got a son who's a freshman in high school and a daughter who's a junior. So the daughter is in that in between point of life, right, where she's not going to go trick or treating, but she doesn't. Her social
Yeah,
group isn't really like throwing Halloween parties or anything just yet. So I'm not sure
yeah,
she's going to do much of anything. But my son is still at that last gasp of childhood age, and so he and some
Mm,
buddies are they're costuming up and going out. And I mean, the total classic male kid thinking, right? Of like people are handing out free candy, why wouldn't I get in on that action, right? You know, like
Totally.
that'd be
You
it'd
milk
be
it for as long as
crazy
you
not
can.
to. Totally. So they're going out. So really close to the neighborhood where I live in. I live in a neighborhood in Santa Barbara called San Roque, and there's a specific part of San Roque called Argonne Circle that is famous of literally, it's just, think of this like big circle that the road, you know, wraps around. And for whatever reason, over the years, the Argonne Circle has just become infamous among Santa Barbara as like a real Halloween trick-or-treating hotspot. So my wife and I
Ooh,
are going to go and just walk around just to go see it, because almost all the houses get really decorated up for it and everything. And I remember there was an article in the local paper about it ages ago, like years ago, where it was something insane when they said how many thousands of pieces of candy get handed out just at this one neighborhood. It's
Really?
really something. So yeah, so and it's literally within walking distance of our house. So we made a plan that since I will not be tied up by Drawing Hive, I will be heading home early so we can go take an evening stroll. And like there's one
Yeah.
house already that we saw just off of Argonne Circle. They're already like getting set up, and they're making it into Ken's Mojo Dojo Casa House from Barbie.
yes.
Like it's underway. They're transforming the house into that, so you can see what's coming already, and it just looks like it's gonna be incredible.
Oh, that's fun. Um, that last Halloween trick-or-treating outing as a young man it's like the first glimpse of mortality you get, I think, as a person.
Totally.
Because you start realizing like, oh no.
Nothing lasts forever.
Oh no. This is temporary.
Yeah.
And I think that everybody's last Halloween trick-or-treating outing was 1 year later than it should have been. You
I
know,
can I can
everybody,
absolutely say that's true for me.
yeah, everybody did it 1 year longer than they should have and had to get a taste of I shouldn't have done this. Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah. Do you guys have any favorite costumes that you've had over the years?
Oh, I made my own Oompa Loompa costume, like Gene Wilder Oompa Loompa
Okay.
style, and it was, I was pretty proud. Like like designed the wig to be the hair. I painted my skin orange, and
Mhm.
that's when I learned that my husband was not a fan of Oompa Loompas, and he was just like, "Nah, I don't like this costume."
Don't ever do that again. Yeah.
That was my favorite.
I can't think of a favorite for me, but the favorite one that I had a hand in was my daughter when she was maybe second grade, second, third grade, somewhere around there. She came home one night and told us, like in early October, somewhere around there, you know, just a couple weeks for Halloween, like, okay, so I've talked to all my friends and we agreed we're all going to be candy. And I really want to be a York peppermint patty. Can I get a York peppermint patty costume? And we kind of thought at that point, like, everything's on Amazon, right? Like we'll find one.
Yeah.
And that was one costume. Like you couldn't get that. Like you could get like a Kit Kat bar costume, and you could get like an M&M, and you know, like there were things you could
Yeah.
get, but you couldn't get that. So of course my wife is like, you're the graphic artist, figure it out, you know. So I had to go through some lengths and some, you know, jumping through some hoops to basically reconstruct the logo in Illustrator and put it all together and get it printed at Kinko's. And you know, it was pretty fun though, of that. Like I remember when I took it to get printed, of kind of strategizing what material we are going to work on, because the worker I found like caught the vision of what we were trying to do and was excited for it. And you know, and basically it was just a print essentially that got mounted on sandwich boards. So I don't want people to think it was like too amazing, but it definitely got her a ton of comments. I mean, like the whole crew of them in their little candy costumes were uh delighting parents everywhere they went. People were super into that one. So that was pretty fun.
That's
Yeah.
adorable.
God, I got a similar story. I was the recipient of, first of all, if you guys look back at like the Wyeth family and look
Mhm.
at how much like illustrators in the past celebrated Halloween.
Totally. Big time. Yeah.
The Wyeth family went all out. And
Mhm.
so There was always the group of illustrators that were around my father. They always threw big Halloween parties and always dress up and work on their costumes for months in advance. And my father really got into like with once we got old enough to go out to be out and trick or treating, he would like help us with our costumes. Like it was like a personal something that I wouldn't have guessed he would have gotten into, but he really loved it. He got into it and he would paint all of my sisters and our faces and come up with these just unbelievable costumes. He'd go into New York and find incredible apparel that would work for a costume, not as a costume, but to feed the costume that he was making. And when the television series of Batman came out, before that you could go, I mean, it came out in the fall and things didn't move as fast, I don't think, but there were not like Batman costumes like available to buy, to purchase at a store. He made me the most unbelievable Batman costume right when it came out. And I was the envy of my school with that Batman costume when I was like 8 years old.
That's
I bet.
awesome.
I
I love
bet.
that. That's such a
So
fun fact too.
at my kids' elementary school, again, just down the street from our house. So this would have been the last year when my son Connor was in 6th grade. So a couple of years ago, maybe just even like 21 or something, like post-pandemic. I'm horrible with years, but recently, my wife and I went to go see their Halloween parade that they do, where all the classes kind of march around the playground, and it's really sweet and cute, and all the teachers are really good sports about it. Like they really go for it and are often doing homemade costumes, and the teachers for a particular grade would always of course do a theme. So like the kindergartner teachers, maybe they're like Disney characters or something like that. And all the years that we were there with our kids, like they always changed it up. They never just took the easy route and just like stuck with one thing. They'd always do something different. So the last time we were there, the one that really cracked me up, it was the 5th grade teachers, and they were all of like the main characters from Ted Lasso. And the head 5th grade teacher literally had a mustache, and he's a guy like in his 30s, and like literally build, body frame. I mean, like he all he had to do was put on the visor and like a whistle around his neck and like the right tracksuit, and he was Ted Lasso. I mean, it was amazing how easily he kind of slipped into that role. And then there was another teacher in that grade who also already was like 90% of the way to Coach Beard. So it was fantastic. And then they had female teachers who then all put on soccer jerseys and were like Jamie Tart and some of those other characters. But anyway, so they're going around and all the parents are cheering because they look great. And and that's right when the show was like, it was in its 2nd season, so the show's like in its heyday of being in the
Right.
zeitgeist and everything. And all of a sudden it occurs to me, like, I can only hope as a parent that all of these kids here are completely baffled as to who these people are, because Ted Lasso, just language alone, is not an
Right, right,
appropriate
right.
show for elementary school kids, right? Like, so
Yeah.
I did all of a sudden kind of have this weird feeling of like, well, that was a little bit of an odd choice. I can only hope the kids are going, wait, who are you again?
That's a
Funny.
really good point that I
I
didn't even think about.
I
Yeah,
think
it
the
was like
key.
halfway through the
Yeah.
parade when it occurred to us of like, oh, yeah, a little awkward.
I think the key to a great Halloween costume is you have to find something that's in the zeitgeist that everybody recognizes immediately, but doesn't realize it's in the zeitgeist, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, or at least maybe this is like low hanging, it's not low hanging fruit because it's pretty hard to accomplish, but it has to be like we all see it when we see it. We all know immediately what it is, but you would never think about it, you know?
Yeah.
Because every year there's going to be the one thing that everybody heard about this year, and that's going to be like the costume. Like I can already guess what the costume this year is going to be.
What
Um,
do you think?
I don't want to say it on the show because it's inappropriate, but I guarantee it. I'll text it to you later, Scott.
I want to know too.
It was
I have a good guess. I'm just curious.
a woman who became a meme on Instagram
Oh,
for street interviews. Um,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
it's pretty easy. It doesn't take much to figure out who I'm talking about. Yeah. But yeah, no, it's that to me seems like it's gonna be, yeah, we're at peak
But
internet
that's not very
right now.
clever. Like it'll be interesting to see
Mm-mm.
what the clever one is this year, you know, like what's
Oh
the
yeah,
thing that,
yeah. The most
you know,
common is definitely never the most clever. Yeah,
right. Right.
yeah.
Cassandra, I know you heard me say this because you're always on here, but um, my wife worked for Hallmark Cards for most of her career. And, there were a lot of really good artists that worked at Hallmark, and they threw some unbelievable Halloween costumes. And they were the first one I went to. I was just absolutely blown away by how much effort people put into it. And they gave out prizes. Um, they had a jury chose who won, who would win the best prize and what. And the first year I went, and this may be a little bit inappropriate, I apologize, but the winner of the contest was Snow White Trash. And
Yeah.
and she was great.
It's different. Yeah.
I got such a kick out of it. I still laugh about it.
I love a good pun. I'm always a fan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was so perfect. I have to warn you, I'm going to show a couple paintings tonight that might be considered, there's nudity in them. I'll just put it that way.
All right. I'll let YouTube know, John.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
they're very painterly. So
Yeah. I'm sure the YouTube bots are gonna understand. No, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. I'm just teasing. Uh
but you can't show.
a YouTube bot is just gonna be like, get this pornography out of here, you know.
Yeah.
That's where the technology is right now. Um
Nah, I don't think it'll even be able to tell.
That's what I was just thinking. I'll be surprised if it even detects it, because given the artist in question, I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't
oh
quite realize
truly?
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you'll be blown away by what the algo pick, not the algo,
Yeah, but what's weird
the
is like
bots
I
pick
will
up.
see realists post like
Yeah.
beautiful
Mhm.
like paintings that are nudes and they don't get fooled. Like I think
What that is probably the cause of that is because the way that it's happening is literally it's it's not like every single thing is being reviewed every single time someone posts. It's your account or a collection of images or whatever. There's basically a scan being done. And so I think it's very easy for things to slip through the cracks to get it technically, right? It's like so that's why certain things get passed and some things don't.
but
And then
like
they
what if an
scrape the
artist
site.
always posts them, has a lot of followers and they're not
I think it's still just like a luck of the draw. Like,
Hmm,
you know, I really
interesting.
do. And then I think like if you get reported by followers, I think that you become more likely to be reviewed more frequently, you
Yeah,
know,
that would make sense. I would expect
Mhm.
that too.
right? Or like if there's a way to like I actually it's so hidden. I mean, I spent 3 or 4 months working with VAP because we got blacklisted on Instagram and I could not figure out what image caused it, right?
Mhm.
And I did like an onslaught of just deleting stuff that seemed even like remotely close to it, right?
Hmm.
And then I did find in the settings like a list of complaints and it was like deep in the business settings. I literally had to find a tutorial how to find it. I'm very tech savvy when it comes to like back end navigation and I was like blown away how hidden it was. And they were like, we don't like the hashtag you used on this image like 3 years ago.
And was that a viewer, or was that the
That was
actual
that was
social
Instagram,
media
and
company?
it
Wow.
made sense because it was during 2020, and so they were 2020 that year and 21. They were just they kind of had a they went nuts like on like the if you go to you can search it. It's Instagram ban list, and it's a
Hmm.
list of words that Meta has confirmed are essentially banned on their platforms.
Okay. Interesting.
Specifically for hashtags, meaning they just don't want people to organize keyword searches using these specific hashtags, and you'll be blown away by some of the words that end up on the list.
Hmm.
Like words that are just like you would never think are problematic, or like I'm
Well,
trying to think
weren't
of
you
a good
even
example.
saying if your hashtags are too generic,
Yeah, that's
that's like a
also
big problem?
that's like probably the most common reason is that you start to look like a bot. So like if you're using like hashtag art or hashtag illustration, you should stop doing that.
Hmm.
You should look for hashtags that are ranking around like a couple hundred to 10,000, and stay away from the ones that have like a million posts, because it just looks like you're just trying to game anything. Whenever you try to game the system on these platforms, they don't like it.
No, because they want you to pay for everything.
Oh, not well, yeah, but like they just don't like they know that bad actors are trying to game the system. So whenever you try to game the system, meaning like try to get followers in a non-conventional way, you basically try to get engagement in any way that is aside from just creating good content, they try to penalize you. I'm not saying it's good or bad. It's just that's what I essentially how it was broken down for me, because we spent a long time navigating it, and it
Sandra
annoys me
says
that
it's
I
not,
notice
it's
things.
that we should be limiting our hashtags. Is that true?
I mean, I haven't heard that, but I mean, some people go way overboard. I don't know.
I wouldn't be surprised if anything like that,
Yeah.
Cassandra. It could be also true at one time and then it changes in their next, because they're constantly tweaking the algorithm all the time. So, yeah, that could be something that for a season is true and then maybe isn't later.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I do know I've definitely experienced what I'm sure everybody has, which is just, decreased engagement, which is always a bummer.
Yeah.
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 Yep. Which I think that also is like, so the decreased engagement, Scott, because I was talking my brother does a ton of digital marketing.
Mhm.
He's a bit of a wonderkind. And I was talking with him about it because I was like, man, it's such a bummer. Like we used to post stuff and it would get like 800 likes like regularly,
Mhm.
And I was like, I posted an image and I was like, it doesn't hardly get any engagement. And he's like, how much do you interact with stuff on social now?
Mhm. Mhm.
And I'm like, I'm like, not at all. Like like for me to engage with a person on social, like a post or something, first of like I pretty much have to know the person
Right.
for me to comment. For me to comment on a post, I have to know the person, like
Yeah,
personally.
there's a lot of signal to noise and a lot
Yeah.
more noise, so
And
I
yeah.
totally get that.
And
But
then there's also just more of like consumer, like I'm just watching reels and I just don't, and I don't like it. It started to make sense to me where I was like, well, like me myself, like I am not engaging at the pace that I used to. I'm just like drooling as I watch more reels. um, but I John's gonna start his educational thing in a bit, but I'm gonna say we should start moving on to the second image already. It's hashtag Drawing Hive, hashtag Drawing Hive 225, and at Visual Arts Passage. Post it to Instagram. We're gonna check it out at the end of the night. On the topic of all of that, John and I went to a school today. Went to KU, talked with the illustration program there.
How'd it go?
Um, it was great. It was really fun. I think we're both tired. It's like it's an early morning for us. We were at an 8:30 a.m. college class, 45 minutes away from our home. uh, but on the topic of what we were talking about, which is like the algorithm and social media, is we've and I've been around John long enough to see these talks go where we mention really iconic artists throughout the talk. John has a pretty impressive Rolodex of people he'll refer to, and then we'll show work of artists that are inspiring us today. And it's always interesting. Lately, we've been doing a thing where John, you'll say like a name, and we'll say like raise your hand if you know that artist. And this is not unique to this school. It's literally a lot of the schools we visited. Um, there's not a lot of recognition anymore with like names,
Hmm.
right?
yep.
Um, And I'm not saying we know the answer as to why that is. Um, but we've just noticed it on a micro level, like, oh wow, it's kind of wild. Like we'll mention a name of somebody where we're like, oh, you guys have to know this person. Because if you love doing what you're doing, like, how could you love what you're doing and not know this name, right? And we're not trying to bully anyone or make them feel bad. But
Not really.
I mean,
John
a
might
little
maybe
shaming's
maybe
okay, you know,
maybe
just a
maybe
little
John's
bit.
like a you know what, a healthy amount of shaming that encourages growth.
There we go.
Well,
Right?
the other thing too is I know they have a very good instructor there. The name of
Yeah.
Barry
You could see him
Fitzgerald.
fuming as we were talking.
And he's like, I've told you people.
Yeah. In the middle of John's talk, as John's saying, like, Victo Nye, have you ever heard of the name Victo Nye? And like no hands go up. And you could see Barry like he's like almost pacing at this point. And then he comes out of his room, he comes out of his office with like 5 books, and he's like, do none of you remember when I told you to look through these books? But anyway, we were talking about this, and we're trying to make sense of it because I don't think it's generational. I think it's exposure to like how you consume media.
I think that's gotta be it.
How you consume media. I don't think this is not us saying, oh man, this new generation. It's not that.
No,
It's not that at all. We are not like that. We're not like the get off my lawn people. But I was thinking about it, and I was just like, because we've also had talks where we'll be like, what artist that someone will say like, I love whimsical animation, and John will be like, well, what's name an artist that like you really admire that does that, and they'll have a tough time naming them. Um, that might be being put on the spot and being nervous, and like there's something to be said about that. So that's an element of it because they're in front of their classmates and stuff. Um, but I think it's just learning what the algorithm feeds you, kind of like just consuming what's thrown in front of you. And that's what we talked about that very briefly today. We were like, do whatever you can to break your algorithm, meaning like get into the algorithm that is like, I want to get on the Scott Anderson algorithm. Like, I want to get on your algorithm, Scott. Like, tell me what I should have, Like, reach out to people and be like, Cassandra, design my algorithm.
Hmm.
Who should I learn about tonight? Right.
Hmm.
Instead of just being like, I don't know.
No, I like that discussion of like, just not necessarily have to design my algorithm, but like, who are you looking at? Who are you following? And then just looking at a bunch of that and just seeing what that then
Yeah.
puts in front of you.
But like, I don't think you can like get on Instagram and break your algorithm. I think it's so advanced now that like, even if you're like, okay, I want my feed to be, I don't know, like sculpture art. I think it's still hard because it tracks your eyes, it literally tracks your pupils.
Hmm.
So like just what you're drawn to. I think it's a hard thing to beat. And I think
I'm
that, yeah, go ahead, Scott.
I'm gonna totally risk old man get off my
Do,
lawn territory here.
do
So
it.
just
Do it. Just
accepting
before you do that,
accepting that
just
risk.
before you do that, anything that Scott says is representative only of Scott Anderson.
Important disclaimer. No, I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not going to be that controversial, but just to say, just to give my quick little hot take on things, I think a big part of the issue with if we're talking specifically about visual literacy, a big part of
Yeah.
it is, and I want to say this with no judgment, because if I were a teen growing up today, I'd be doing the same thing, which is to say, we're all operating from the assumption of that, like the place where people are getting their visual information is from Instagram, right? Or from social media,
Yeah.
as opposed to getting lost in the stacks at a library. And
Yep.
so I know this dates me, but back when I was in college, being an art major at a private liberal arts school and getting a good education, but there was a point round, I can't remember if it was my sophomore or my junior year, where all of a sudden in the library at one point, I looked up, I was looking for books on Sargent because he's just always been one of my favorite artists. And I found some, but then I found some other books. And next thing I know, I was in a new habit for the next couple of months of wherever I had kind of like a little bit of a lighter week homework wise. I was basically making like a new friend, so to speak, artistically, going through the stacks and finding some cool, heavy hardcover art book and discovered all kinds of painters that I just had never heard of and that weren't getting mentioned even in my art history class. So I do fear a little bit that, with these amazing instant information and entertainment devices that we're all carrying around in our pocket all the time, I can't help but wonder if like just good old fashioned library usage and good old fashioned looking at art books, has decreased. And that's what I think is also in a sense leading to some stunting of knowledge of artists. Because there's definitely some that I'm thinking of, so John, to throw one at you, like Victor Higgins, like that was an artist who I discovered in the stacks of this library, that I don't know that I would have come across any other way, but now that got added to my knowledge base of artists and someone whose work I really love.
Well, Scott, you're officially old.
There it
So
is. It's official.
Wait, I want to add a new segment. Scott, can we get a commitment that whenever you come on, we have a segment that's called "Get Off My Lawn"
With Scott Anderson.
Get off my lawn with Scott Anderson. Yeah, we've had some dicey times when we've given guests special segments. Because we had a CF Payne's gripe of the week for a while.
I loved his gripe of the week.
the funny part
He
is
would really gripe?
no, the funny part about it is he didn't know he was doing it.
No, yeah, we made the segment. We didn't tell Chris about the segment at all.
Oh, I see.
But
Yeah,
like,
it's amazing.
I still think about the one where he said those plastic toothpicks he finds all over the ground. And so every time I see him on the ground, I'm like, oh, Chris Payne. Like I think of him.
So Scott, anytime you want to come on and do your like the end of 60 minutes.
No, I don't want to be morally safer. I'm not that old.
Yeah.
Now all the Gen Zs are going, who's morally safer? So I just did it again.
Exactly. Yeah,
but I can already hear the
yourself.
sound. Timmy would
just
pick
made
like
it worse.
Yeah.
Timmy would pick the ticking clock from 60 Minutes time for when you're about to talk. It would be great.
We have a couple questions. I'm going to tell you, we are going to tackle them. John, are you ready for your segment though?
Yeah, I got
on the topic of breaking your algorithm, you should get in on the John English algorithm, which is what we're about to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if it's worthy of that. So do you want any intro here?
The music's back.
Yay.
Yeah.
All right. So full screen? Is it full screen?
Looks great.
All right, good deal. So let's click through here. I thought a good just connection from who I talked about last week, and they were kind of contemporaries and very, very close for many years. They did have a falling out at the end of their lives that nobody ever talked about. But Mr. Lucian Freud.
It's an awesome picture.
Is that a great photo?
Oh my
Man.
gosh.
Hilarious.
Can we make that reference? Because even the lighting
That's
is
awesome.
amazing.
Oh, it's
Seriously.
incredible. It's incredible. He is a German born, and he had a very famous grandfather. He is Sigmund Freud's grandson. He born in 1922. During the war, they moved to England and resided in England for the rest of his life. And he lived to be 88 years old to 2011. And somebody that I saw a lot of when I was in school. So, I mean, just paintings of very, very well-known painter and very, very good painter. But he kind of went a couple of different directions. He had this really interesting, which I think it's like a uniqueness in his drawing style that you'll see, you know, it's kind of starting in here when he was earlier in his career. Work is stunning, really well done, great craftsman, fantastic with materials. But some of the drawing, which you can start to see it like in this face, like oversized eyes, it was really, really personal. I'll show better examples of what I'm talking about. I should have held off on that for a minute. Love these paintings.
Mhm.
Like here's,
I love that.
yeah, and in a very different technique too. I mean, this was not, you know, the paint quality, the very impasto paint, heavy paint that he used later in life. But I always loved these. I always thought that they were just so interesting. And
I always thought of that as his Etienne Delaserre phase, you know, like it kind
yeah,
of reminds me of the distortions that Etienne would do.
yeah. And they were looking at, oh my God, I can't think of his, think of Batera.
Hmm.
And really great. He was a contemporary illustrator in my life when I was younger, was Roy Carruthers. Had
Right.
a very successful illustration and painting career that who very much worked like Botero. But there's Mr. Bacon there on the left.
Hmm.
I just love that interpretation of drawing of him. Looks like him, but it
Yeah.
has this really unique stylization of him. This is one of the paintings that kind of was considered a masterpiece for him. People look at it as a super successful works. Again, the drawing is still there. Look at that figure. So interesting.
Hmm.
I love the coat.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking
Yeah.
at just how much attention he gave the coat and yet the way that he handled the distortion of the figure. It's fascinating.
Beautifully done. More straightforward, more painterly.
Wow.
But look at the use of material on that.
Wild.
Little nudity, I apologize, but it was a big part of what he did. I
That's
was
cool.
selective. I didn't show too many of them.
Must have used a big brush on that one, that last one.
Well, yeah. You know, some of the paintings, some of the portraits are really small too. I was
Mm.
surprised, like the portrait he was commissioned to do he did a live sitting with Queen of England. And the painting's probably only 20 inches tall.
Huh.
Look at that.
Yeah.
That's a
Hmm.
completely different technique. I mean, it's like a buildup of washes. Painted most of his subject matters inside his studio that would pose for him. Painted from life most of the time.
Lovely.
He was uh, he actually was in as a merchant in the merchant navy in World War II, trying to do anything to escape Germans' wrath.
Wow.
There she is.
Hmm.
But that's a really small painting.
Hmm.
And then other things like this was a really large painting. But you know, it's interesting where you know he showed that he had massive painting chops, especially like in the lace of that blanket or bedspread.
Mm-hmm.
He
Mm-hmm.
really got into that, painted it. Yeah, it's interesting where he focused on things.
Yeah.
somebody we should all know. He made, somebody like Jenny Saville possible because,
Totally. That's exactly who I think of the whole time.
yeah,
Yeah.
Jenny Saville is a great contemporary painter. Where the work is, very honest about a subject matter. And he's really honest with his subject matter.
Hmm.
Okay. So there's his studio.
I love the
Wow.
wall. It's just like, let me get this paint off here.
Yeah. So it's like he and Francis Bacon had the same cleaning service. Um, and it's just so interesting to see what a mess it was. He
But
was,
look at that pile of rags. That is a fire waiting
That's
to
oh,
happen.
I
exactly what
know,
I was
just
thinking of.
let's put a little bit more linseed oil on it.
Seriously. Jeez.
He was
Based
probably
on
a
Anybody
smoker.
doesn't know what Scott and I are referring to, linseed oil self ignites. It's self combustible, and you have to be really careful. Like if you use linseed oil and wipe off, a painting or whatever, and then wad up your rag that you wiped it with, it will ignite, or it can. Um, a very well-known illustrator during the 70s through the 2000s. A friend of our family's burned his house down because of that. Both Scott and Cassandra met him, Fred Ottness.
I never actually met Fred.
Oh,
He wasn't there the years I was at the academy, but I certainly know of him. Yeah.
I
Know his
think
work.
this is one of the most telling portraits ever.
Hmm.
You know who that is sitting there, right?
It's Hockney, right?
Yep, it's David Hockney,
Yeah.
another
Gosh.
great painter. I just,
Pass the test.
the master walks into the room. Um, I guess David Hockney's probably close to 90 now.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's easily in his 80s at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, I thought a good one to talk about tonight,
Great one.
and
Yeah.
a great artist and fun to look at. So that's my spiel for tonight.
Thanks, John. That was awesome.
pretty good spiel. I bet Sigmund Freud's studio was a bit tidier based on his drug interests.
I think this was actually reclaimed. This was one of the couches from Sigmund Freud's office.
Really? Yeah.
I'm kidding, totally.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I have
It's a very beige world that Freud lived in, like just kind of looking around there. It's like a lot of
Yeah.
dirty off whites.
There was a shot of a studio. I almost put it in there, but you could tell he changed, he put on the apron there, and he changed shoes because he wouldn't want to drop paint on his good shoes. So it was just a shot of his studio and his pair of boots that he put on all the time to paint it.
Hmm.
I know the routine. I have to have the right shoes on to work.
Scott, earlier someone asked if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit
Mhm.
about your digital process.
Sure. Let's see. Unfortunately, I just had gone through and closed some layers, but I can show a little bit here. Let me see if, well, hopefully the camera's close enough there. So basically we've just got like a background blue. I'm trying to make Swayze look ghost-like because spoilers, but this particular scene is from a movie where he's a ghost. So if anybody's
Hence the
mad at me
title.
for ruining the movie from '89 or something like that. And then I've got this layer right here was my initial rough sketch, and then I had done a more refined sketch on a layer on top of that. I never ever nail the likeness in the first shot. I've always just got to do a couple of renditions to even have a chance at it. So there had been a second one that then I merged, but really at this moment, it's basically these two layers of just this is the figure and the black background. I'm trying to keep this to minimal layers here, just so that keep things simple and keep it moving quicker. The only other thing that might be of interest to people, I will point this out, just a little bit of gear. This right here, you can see this is the pen pad. These guys literally should be sending me payments at this point. I keep pushing their product so hard, they owe me something. But you can see right here, that's actually the website, pen.tips. And basically just think of this as like, it's super lightweight, Bluetooth, very long battery life. It's a keyboard shortcut pad for the iPad, built specifically for the iPad for Procreate. Like it was built with that exactly in mind, and I have just found it to be indispensable. They literally had an issue where Apple changed something in like the iOS or something like that, where all of a sudden the eyedropper wouldn't work on the old pen pad, so you had to buy new ones. And they had dutifully informed all their clientele about it, but I had mistaken it as just like a regular like sales um, email, so I hadn't paid attention to it at the time. And then all of a sudden one day out of the blue, as I was working on an assignment, my pen pad was essentially bricked by Apple's update. So I remember reaching out to them, finding out what was going on, and they were out of stock at the moment. And I just told them, like, I'm a professional illustrator and I like cannot live without this thing. And they expedited shipping one to me, and it still took a couple weeks because they're over in the Netherlands. But it was literally one of those like just incredibly frustrating moments where I realized, wow, I have built something into my workflow to an extent where I am like utterly dependent upon it. Like not having it, I was still able to get my work done, but it was a lot tougher and a lot more painful not having it. So huge fan of this.
That's that's cool. I've never heard of that before. I don't do much digital, so I didn't even know to
Yeah,
like
that you would even need it, right? Yeah, that
yeah,
you would
like
even
I'm
want it,
looking
right?
at it and I'm trying to understand what all the buttons do. Like I'm
So just the main one right here is just, this is the eyedropper. So when I want to sample from colors already in my document,
uh-huh.
all I have to do is hold that down and then press down
Oh,
my
that's
pen, and
cool.
so you can sample. So it'd be the same if you're on like a Cintiq or a Wacom tablet, it'd be like the option key, so this is basically like the missing option key for Procreate. And then this sizes up and down the brush. This will switch you from the brush to the eraser. Here's your undo and redo. And then like if you want to just suddenly conjure the color picker. So it takes a little bit of muscle memory, obviously, to learn it and to get, confident with it. But I'm at the point now where I rarely even look at it for most of the things I need. Like I can just kind of find my way around.
That's
So yeah,
cool.
it's
Okay, I
great,
can see
great
why you would be
little,
addicted to that.
yeah, great little piece of tech. I'm a huge fan of it. And I don't know, I think it's $100 or something like that.
Yeah,
So
just
if
gonna ask
anybody
you.
is painting at all on the iPad, I just can't give it any higher of a recommendation. I really think you'll love it.
That's cool.
But if whoever asked Timmy if I didn't quite land on like what they were hoping to hear, please tell them they can feel free to ask again and clarify. I'm happy to answer anything.
I didn't think you were gonna say something nice.
So Timmy just put Scott's number in the chat.
Yeah, I'll just put his phone number in the chat.
Go for it.
Scott, you sure you want me to give him home address and everything? All right.
Might as well.
Yeah.
Throw social in there too. That'll help.
Yeah. So has anybody seen Talk to Me?
Mm-mm.
It's fantastic. It's Australian, lower budget horror film. It's such a blast. It's really great.
Like how dark? How
It's actually really fun because the allegory of the film is very much about peer pressure.
oh
Um,
nice.
and I don't know like to the degree to which I would say I mean, it's spooky, it's scary, and there's like creepy elements to it, but I thought it wasn't I wouldn't describe it as dreadful, right?
Okay, yeah, I
But
don't do well when
the
like it's
but the
super dark.
yeah, but the
I'm
premise
with
is
you,
that
Cassandra. I don't like slasher flicks. Like I've never been into that. Like,
Yeah.
no, this is more like psychological and
okay.
paranormal, but it's a hand that it's literally like a casted model of a hand that looks kind of like a medical like a medical casting of a hand, but then meets what would you call it? Like not like tarot card, but you know what I'm talking about, like palm reading kind of.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
But anyway, these kids obtain this hand, this like model hand, and they have parties, and one person shakes the hand, and if you say talk to me, you are able to like communicate with a ghost in the room.
Mm.
And it's really it doesn't feel safe the first time they do it, right? But it's kids, young adults, like pressuring each other into doing it because it's like a thrill, right?
Yeah.
And it's such a great fun premise because they're all just peer pressuring each other into doing it. And it's such a, I don't know. I love a solid allegory, you know,
Mm.
where, but yeah, it's a fun one. It's Australian. Um, really well done. I just like, horror films are kind of like the last frontier of like low budget movies with original ideas right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's hard to, I think it's hard in Hollywood for them to finance movies and know they're going to make money on original ideas, but horror films still can do it. You know,
Yeah,
yeah,
horror films and like holiday films, right? Like they've got that baked
yeah,
in advantage, at least of that. There's a season where that's what people are in the mood for, so at least once a
yeah,
year, that like there's an audience that's
yeah,
hungry for content in that particular
totally.
genre.
I think the benefit of horror over like, yeah, like the holiday, which makes sense, like that being like a money runner. But like, I think the benefit of horror is that horror can be like I don't know why, but it can be original. It can like not fit a template,
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
and it can still, if it's good, it can still work, because I've been thinking about that, like of all the movies I've seen over the past like couple of years that have been like really original ideas that made it to theaters and were not passion projects of famous people, or like just like filthy rich people, they all seem to be horror movies,
Mm.
you know um
Well, especially like with Jordan Peele kind of
Yeah.
yeah,
doing
yeah,
so much in that realm too. Maybe that gave more people, I don't know, room
yeah,
to get creative there too. I mean, there already were, but I feel like I saw more variety
yeah,
came out during that time.
yeah. I mean, I think so. Yeah, I don't know. I never thought of myself as like a big horror fan, but I've kind of become one. Can you guys watch a horror film like alone in a dark room?
No.
No.
Well, like I can do like maybe one scary movie a year.
That's pretty different.
I I um I like they stick with me and I think about them too long and then like I wake up in the middle of the night and think about like, but what if that did happen and what if that was true? And I just like I don't do well with I just get too stuck up on how horrible the reality of that would be.
Yeah.
Like The Conjuring, I saw that so long ago and it still sticks with me. And like my husband messes with me by like clapping in my ear sometimes at night.
That's
So
Who do you think of all of the illustrators and painters out there, who do you think has the ability to make the craft the scariest images?
ooh.
That's a good question. Two that come to mind right off the bat would be Phil Hale and Dave McKean.
What genres are those?
Well, so Dave McKean has done everything, but he's probably most known for his comics work. But he also really, I mean, the guy is so ridiculously talented. He like literally plays piano at like professional jazz festivals. He's directed a couple of his own indie movies. He's the key visual collaborator with Neil Gaiman. Like they've
Oh,
collaborated on just
really?
a zillion things. Yeah, but Dave's a writer in his own right, and yeah, I mean, like literally if you were to describe an artist nowadays that I think comes closest to that old adage of a Renaissance man, I think it's Dave McKean. There's a 2 volume hardcover set called Thalamus, like as in your hypothalamus, that just came out I think last Christmas. And I've only made my way through the first hardcover book. I haven't made my way through the second one yet. And it is just like, it's staggering. It is a staggering like oeuvre of work of what he's done. But he can do the macabre, and he can do, you know, like kind of scary things, I think, very, very well. And then Phil Hale has a really, when he wants to turn on that kind of creepy factor. So he's a guy who used to be an illustrator, is now pretty much exclusively fine art, but it's dark fine art. If you were to look up Phil's stuff, you'd see just masterful technique, and an incredibly original vision. He'd be a great one for one of your artist profile segments, John. I think the Phil Hale one would be great.
Yeah, he would be good. I was gonna say artwork that I've, and well, some of it's, you know, just subject matter too, but there's a painter named Odd Nerdrum.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
He would get your attention.
Yeah.
I think if I was going to say from my childhood, I would say Stephen Gamel, you know, the scary stories illustrations, like those pen and inks always stuck with me.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the name of, there was a pen and ink illustrator. Oh gosh, it's just, his name's on the tip of my tongue. Maybe somebody in the chat or something will think of it. But these very kind of spare open line work drawings, and he did the drawings for, there's like some children's classic where, like, you know, the kind of thing where a kid learns his uncle is a warlock or something like that. I can't remember what it was. I just remember as a kid, as a kid in elementary school, it got assigned to us to read, and I was thrilled when I realized that this was a story that had like magic and magicians and stuff in it. But I remember the illustrations just lightly creeping me out, but like in that way that, like, as a kid, where you kind of like it, you know, like it's pushing you a little bit and you're enjoying the thrill. And I know if I hear his name, I'll recognize it. I just can't think of it right now.
Well, there's, you know, I think Kent Williams' work's got that feel.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
George can do some scary stuff.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, he can.
On the topic of scary stuff, everybody, we're moving on to the third and final drawing. So please post your work. It's hashtag Drawing Hive 225 or 225. Hashtag Drawing Hive and Visual Arts Passage. So hashtag Drawing Hive 225. And I am going to mentally prepare for the magic show. Yes. And I'm gonna do it with webcam on. I'm gonna do it with webcam on. I don't have a magic outfit, but
You don't even have satin gloves. Come on, man.
I don't have gloves. I don't have anything. All right. For those of you who don't know, over a month ago, I reached out to a mentalist. If you don't know what a mentalist is, they're kind of like magicians, but I feel like I think they're magicians for adults.
Also, I feel like they have less like supplies.
Props. Fewer props.
Yeah, props.
Yeah. Reached out, got a quote, and I was like, I'm going to make an investment for the Drawing Hive family. And they flaked out pretty fast when they found out it was a podcast that had such a vast viewership that they said, I don't know that I could perform for that large of an audience. Now, they bailed because they wanted way too much. They wanted an insane amount of money. So we decided that we were going to do the magic in-house. So I'm going to need some help from one of the panelists. All right. And
Cassandra can be your assistant. Cassandra should be your assistant.
I'm ready. What do I need to do?
All right. Well, I didn't even think about having an assistant. Man, I if I had just had more time today.
Well, this doesn't have to be the only magic night. I'm just saying.
No, I promise you, after this is done, this is it. This is the last magic
one
night.
and done.
This is a one and done. Whatever all your expectations are, lower them to about 10% of whatever you were thinking is going to happen. And that's probably going to be an accurate guess as to what will happen. All right. So Cassandra is my assistant. As you can see.
Can you spotlight yourself, Timmy?
I think it'd be better if I didn't. I think the trick, John, would be better if I didn't.
Okay.
All right. That has nothing to do with the trick, everybody. Just so you know. No, so John, I'm gonna ask you. All right. So for the first trick of the evening, for the first magical thing that we're gonna do, John, want you to think of a card, a number, or a face card. And this is why I'm not a good magician. What do you call them? Hearts.
Diamond
Suit,
spades.
A
suit,
A
a
suit.
suit.
Think of a number and a suit. Okay.
Can it be a face card in a suit?
It can totally be a face card in a suit.
I would never choose a face card, but go ahead.
Actually, I'm totally wrong. You can't pick a face card. I'm sorry.
Okay.
You
All right.
can't.
I got my card.
No face card allowed.
Okay, hold on. I'm writing it down.
Are you writing it down on your canvas?
John, he can see your
So,
board.
yeah, I can see
Did you not
Wait,
see that?
Wait,
Wrote it first
we're
line.
gonna,
Timmy.
you know what, John? We're gonna reverse this. We're gonna do a different magic trick first, okay?
Okay.
Because you spoiled that one.
How did I spoil it?
You didn't spoil it. I'm blaming you, but it's just because I'm mixing up my tricks. I like blended two tricks.
Okay.
All right. So new magic trick. Everybody forget everything I just said. All right. John, want you to think of a number between 1 and 100. Or no. These are so hard. You know how hard it is to learn a magic trick in 10 minutes?
Well,
No.
you could have given yourself a little bit more time.
All right. Well, think of a face card. We're going back to cards. All right. Think of a face card. All right.
Okay, I got it.
All right. You got it. Think of it just in your head. All right.
Got it.
Can you we don't need you to write it down. You're gonna be honest, right?
I'll be totally honest.
Really?
Yeah.
Don't, if I mess it up, you got to tell people. Don't just be like, oh my God. All right.
Okay.
So
I wrote it down, so we're
It's
good.
a numbered card between yeah, whatever.
Well, you just told me to pick a face card.
I didn't tell you to pick a face card. Don't pick a face card. I
That's
said
what you
don't
just
pick
said.
don't pick a face card.
Okay. All right. I'll go
No
back to
face
my
cards.
original-
No face cards allowed. All right. Are you ready?
This is thrilling TV, guys.
I
We're
know.
just killing
I
it
think
here.
this is great. This is who's on first.
Totally.
All right. This is good content, Scott. Don't worry. Don't worry about it. All right. All right. So get that number in your head. Are you thinking about it really hard?
I got it.
All right. Now double that number in your head.
Got it.
Did you do that?
Yeah.
All right. Sorry. It's harder to do this over Zoom. We usually do it in person.
He's using his magical brain right now.
Yeah. If anybody wants to know, I'm really concentrating. All right. Now I want you to think of your favorite number. Any number. Think of your favorite number. Okay.
Yep.
Add that to the previous number.
Got it.
Okay. Now can you really concentrate on your favorite paintbrush? What is your favorite brush you've ever used?
I don't have one.
Think of a memorable moment you've had with a paintbrush.
Okay.
It doesn't really matter, John.
I know. I am sure it doesn't make any.
It's all part of the distraction. Just go with it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. All right. Are you all ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. John, is your card the 7 of hearts?
No.
All right. There we go.
Wrong number, wrong suit.
9 of diamonds.
No.
All right. Well, we'll get it next time. Okay. All right.
Now we
we're
see
gonna
why
do-
those mentalists cost so much.
Yeah, apparently. All right. We're going to do one more trick. It's an easy one. All right. Scott,
Yes.
I need you to think of a character that was really important to you, a fictional character who's really
Mhm.
important to you, that you learned about as you grew up. So it could be like comic book character, it could be an athlete. It doesn't actually have to be fictional. It could just be anything, right? But
Got it.
just somebody that meant a lot to you. Do you have it?
Got it.
Okay. All right. So I'm gonna fully close my eyes. All right.
Mhm.
All right. And I am totally just wanting you to just really think about a memorable moment you had with that person, with that like fictional character, right?
Mhm.
Okay. Now, can you write that name down on a piece of paper?
Sure.
All right. Let me know when you're ready. And just for everybody to be clear, I'm not as you can see, I'm closing my eyes. I'm not looking. All right.
I'm doing this off camera. He can't see it. I
There's
can
no
verify
way. All
this.
right. No. Now I I am gonna need you to show that picture to Cassandra. Okay.
Okay.
That's all I need you to do. Just show it to Cassandra. All right. And everybody can see. I'm clearly not looking. Okay.
Why just Cassandra? The only way I can show this is to the
Because
internet.
Cassandra's my assistant. Don't worry about the question,
Okay. All
Scott.
right.
Cassandra,
Excellent. I've seen it.
Cassandra,
Got
have
it.
you seen it? Okay.
Yes.
All
You've
right,
seen it.
Cassandra.
Yeah.
Cassandra, does that name mean anything to you?
Sure.
Really? So it's a name that you've heard of before?
Definitely.
Okay. All right. Cassandra, I want you to think really hard about that character. All right.
Okay. Hmm.
Okay. Sorry, this is a hard one. Is it Captain America?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, it is.
It is.
Yeah. How did I do it?
You cheated somehow,
Magic.
but
You
nice.
cheated somehow. Yeah. So that's it. That's the end of the magic night. All right, everybody. John, what card were you thinking of again?
10 clubs.
That's did I even ask you what you were thinking of? Actually. Yeah. Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah. I'm glad I could do it. And hey, guess what, everybody? We just saved $1,700.
Woohoo!
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure that their show wouldn't have been any better than that.
What? They wouldn't know Captain
Yeah.
America.
Yeah. Have you guys ever seen magic where it just blew your minds?
Yes.
Yeah. Like in person or like a video?
In person, honestly, I was just talking about this with friends recently. There's an incredible Cajun food restaurant in Santa Barbara called the Palace Cafe.
Yeah.
And we actually just went like I don't know, a week and a half ago with some friends because like a lot of restaurants just struggling with inflation and maybe not fully recovered from the pandemic, things like that. They had announced on social media that they were perhaps going to close, and then the community rallied so strong that at least at the moment they're committing to through the end of the year, but they still think it's very likely that they're going to close. So we just knew like, hey, we got to go while we still can. And one of the traditions at this restaurant is on weekend nights they'll do like a big sing along where everybody sings along to Louis Armstrong. It's What a Wonderful World
Aw.
all together. Yeah, it's like one of those kind of places. Really, really cool local place. But they have a magician who they've had for years who comes by, I think, on Friday and Saturday nights. And so the last time we were there, I think it was 22 when we were there with my kids. And the magician immediately saw my two kids and thought like, oh, like that's my target audience. And so he comes over and starts doing tricks with them. And literally, you guys, there came a point where I was like, it's possible this guy is actually a sorcerer. You know what I mean? Like
That's awesome.
I'm not ruling out that this guy's tapped into the dark arts. Like it was that impressive. I was just knocked out by it. Because a couple things, like, oh, I know that's sleight of hand, I know that's this or whatever. And then there were a few things where it was like, I literally have no clue how you pulled that off. It was really something.
That's
Yeah.
really fun.
Um, I wasn't able to use this trick tonight, but it's a very fun mentalist trick. and it's very similar, which is you you set the scene for where you're going to do the trick, and you create a really messy environment. So like a table that has like a ton of stuff on it, right? So like any artist studio would be perfect for this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you need a an item that has a really reflective surface. So like Scott, your iPad would be perfect, right?
Mhm.
And then you essentially do the exact same trick that we did with the you write it down and you tell the person to show it, but you essentially use like one of the most common tools used in mentalism is reflection.
Mm.
Interesting.
So you just basically get a person to cast what they wrote down into a reflection.
So it's fancy cheating, is what you're telling me.
Yeah, Scott, I hate to break it to you, but
No, see, I don't want this broken to me. I want to believe in magic, but you're
yeah, do
making it
you
hard for me.
truthfully, like truly?
I'm just kidding.
No, but I mean, like, truly, is it kind of nice to like not know the secrets?
Yeah,
You
I
know,
like
it
not
both,
knowing.
yeah, you know, it both is, and then of course I'm curious and nosy, so I still want to know too. But yeah.
I mean, when you really get into like the technical of it, it's pretty awesome for how like how committed some magicians are with their like process where they like you know there are acts back in the day that like they carried props with them everywhere just because they never knew if they were going to need them.
Hmm.
Hmm.
It's like do a you know to do the trick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, I feel like I let everybody down tonight.
No, you didn't.
Uh,
um,
You showed up, you followed through, you did some tricks. I
I
loved
would
it.
say that I did. You know what I feel like I did? I feel like I did the bare minimum for a teacher that like likes me, but doesn't want to fail me, but is like, come on, just like turn something in.
Just put your name at the top of the page, man. That's all you have to do.
All I need for you to do is just turn in anything and I won't fail you. And I was like, I'll do that. And then I Googled it this, not even this morning. I was with John this morning. I was thinking this morning, man, I'm going to have to Google something. Um, someone recommended Brahm as like a good creepy artist. I like that.
Yeah, I
yeah,
was
totally.
gonna say that too. That's a great one.
Yeah.
Ed Binkley.
Yeah, I love Ed's
Ed
work.
Binkley's pretty creepy. Who did Scary Stories?
That's what I said. I said Stephen Gamel.
Uh, I was thinking really hard about my upcoming magic trick when you said that, Cassandra.
Like crickets. His stuff was super creepy.
Yeah, it really, I mean, those are the drawings that I think of that still scare me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can go back and look at all the creepy and eerie stuff,
Yeah.
comic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, even somebody
We did Wrightson not too long ago.
It was like
yeah, Wrightson, but even like
2
Jack
weeks ago.
Davis, and as cartoony as he was, when he drew like zombies and stuff, like they got a little creepiness to them, you know. I mean, they're not. I wouldn't say they're terrifying, but they're he could draw some gross looking undead people too.
Who do you think of as like this the spookiest, scariest author? Obviously, Stephen King is like,
I
you
was
know,
going to say Stephen King
Yeah,
just jumps
he
immediately to
still
mind, right?
stays
yeah,
I
me.
kind of think he kind of owns that territory, I think. But
I mean, there's a lot of other really creepy authors, but yeah, that's the one that like there's just been books I'll try to read of his and I'll get he just paints it so real because he mentions everything. He makes it really boring for a while and so you feel like you're in the reality. Like he even mentions
yeah,
like, oh, they had to get up, they had to change their clothes, they had to put each sock on. Like he mentions all that and then boom, something crazy happens. It scares me
yeah.
every time.
I don't know that
yeah,
I've
I
ever
never
seen.
really read much Stephen King because as a kid, I didn't like scary stuff. I wasn't really into that. You know, it had to be fairly anodyne or like, I don't know, steeped in fantasy or something like that. Then I
Mm-hmm,
could
mm-hmm.
handle it a little bit more. But straight horror, I was never really into. And so for me, the very first Stephen King novel I ever read, and I've literally read maybe two or three at most, but I read his time travel story, 11/23/63, I think is what it's called. It's about a guy who goes back in time to try and stop the assassination of JFK. And so
Yeah.
it's fantastic. Like I
Mhm.
absolutely adore that novel. It's an incredible page turner, really great, just great story. But one of the things that's interesting about it is it's not at all in the horror genre, and yet it reminded me of why, even without having read Stephen King's horror stuff, knowing it just more, by reputation and by fame, I could completely understand why this guy is so famous, because there's
Yeah.
one scene of it of basically like a scene of domestic violence with the hero being involved. And the
Mhm.
way he described the violence literally was like like I had to put the book down for a second of just like, oh man, what did I just read? Like, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
his ability to conjure that for the reader, I really thought, man, no wonder his horror stuff is so famous, because this guy just totally did it to me in a book that wasn't really supposed to be, about that kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
That's
I feel that
exactly
way
how
about
I
yeah.
read
Go
one
ahead.
of his horror books, is because I read some of his non-horror and I was so impressed. I was like, okay, I'll try. And I tried to read The Shining and I was just immediately terrified.
I feel that way about Cormac McCarthy, Scott. Like,
Yeah, he can do it too, right? Yeah, when he writes
yeah.
violence, man, it's like it's upsetting, it's
Oh,
yeah.
I've read it and I've been like, they need to lock this guy up.
Uh,
Cormac should not be on the streets.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the road was brutal,
Yeah.
but the William Peter Blattley, which I had to look up. I didn't know he wrote The Exorcist.
Oh,
Oh,
really?
Yeah, I didn't know who wrote it, but man, I read it and it scared me to death.
God, when I was in grade school, I remember asking a nun after I'd seen it. I was in fourth grade. I said, and I had already asked my parents, is The Exorcist true? And they were like, oh no, who let you watch that? Like there's this is devastating. Oh my God. Why did someone's parents let you watch that? I'm like, no, it's not real. And then I'm at school the next day and I made the mistake of being like, I know my parents don't believe that I could handle the truth. I
oh
should
no.
ask I should ask this nun
Oh my gosh.
if
Mhm.
yeah.
if The Exorcist is a true story. And she was like, not only is it a true story, you need to be extremely careful.
Oh my God.
Yeah, yeah. You need to be extremely careful because you could very easily invite that into your own life. And
Oh
I want to
man.
say it was like a 7 month like recovery system
Yeah, I
for my
bet.
It's
parents
amazing
to
it's
get
not
me out
longer
of
to
it.
me. It's amazing that it's still not a recovery thing.
We tried rewatching it. I like live texted it to Ray and I was like, I can't believe I sat through this when I was in grade school. It's so boring. Not saying it's a great movie. I'm just saying it's maybe it's a testament to how short my patience has become as I've gotten older. But I was just like, oh gosh, still very scary, but just I don't know. I was also going to like a Catholic school at the time, so it was on theme.
Yeah.
I still
Right?
find it all
You know what
very
I
scary.
mean? You know what I mean? You go to like an old church, like you got to go to church the next day, and you're like, oh, this is
It
like
is real.
you're like feels pretty real. You're like I feel like we're on the set of The Exorcist right now. Yeah. Um, have you guys ever had a paranormal experience in real life that you would feel comfortable talking about?
No, I've never had one.
Yeah, me neither.
Me,
Yeah.
Have you, Timmy?
Um, no, I've had like things that are like wild and you're just like, whoa, is that a sign? But I've never had like, like I heard like a wailing in the room next door.
Right.
Yeah. Um, an illustrator that I do believe I believe his stories is Ted Kinsella. Ted Kinsella has the best ghost stories.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, Robin
You
Ely's got a really killer one too that freaked
really?
him out, him and his sister as a kid. So yeah, next time you see him, ask him his ghost story. It's a
Ooh.
good one.
Ted's a St. Louis illustrator. He was in town and um John, I think it was when your dad had passed away. He was in town, and so he stayed at our house. And I know Ted was like very ghost aware, right? And I'm trying to remember what brought it up, but he was like, um, he's like, he asked me like, do I live in like an old home? And I was like, oh, it's kind of old. And I knew he had all these ghost stories. He's had very many run-ins with the paranormal, right? And
Hmm.
he asked me, he was just like, has anybody ever passed away in your home? And since he was staying with us like 2 or 3 more nights, I was like, no, never. And like the reality is like 5 Italians had died in the room. Like 5 old Italians had passed away over generation because I'm living in my dad's grandpa's house, right? Um, and Ted every morning was like, man, that room is so weird. And I was like, yeah, that's the room that like the old Italians were like shuffled to over time. Um, Never was honest with Ted about that. What do you do with a house guest like that? What do you do? You know,
Do the right thing. You don't tell
yeah, exactly. That's what I felt like I did. Instead I told the Zoom room. So tag Ted. And you post your
So
room.
you still never told him?
No, but I mean, I think he would be. I think he knew. I think he knew. He has legitimately cool ghost stories where I'm like, and when I say cool, they're just really profound, interesting. He tells an amazing story with them. Whereas when I usually listen to someone's ghost story, it's like it feels like listening to somebody tell me about a dream they had. You
Mm.
know?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a difference between a ghost story and like an unexplainable event, you know?
Mm-hmm.
The unexplainable event I think occurs all the time.
Yeah.
I was in my brother's backyard at my brother has a 3-year old and so he never gets away. We got to have like the bros out night and we went out and we're both in our 30s, so this is a rare occurrence. And we got to have fun and we were back at his house and it's like 11 o'clock at night and we're standing in the backyard and looked up at the sky and I see this row of like, this is like a year and a half ago. I see a row of like 10 stars moving across the sky, like at this rapid pace, like flying across the sky. And I'm like, oh my God, what is that? And he's like, oh my God. And we both are just like, we got to see how we both react when we see a UFO, right? We're just like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my, like we're just yelling, like just running in circles, just like, oh, it's still there. And, like we're not getting our phones out. We're just like yelling, right? Just so thrilled. And it turns out it was just like Elon Musk's like Starlink thing flying across the sky. But have you ever seen that before?
Mm-mm.
It looks insane. It's like a perfect line. It looks like a perfect line of stars moving across the sky. There's like 10 or 12 of them in a row.
You know what's
Um,
funny is
it's really
I feel like
magical.
there's always these the naysayers when people have stories and they're like, why didn't you pull your phone out? And everyone's always like, I was just kind of caught up in the moment. And so I think it's funny hearing you being like, so I was like caught up in the moment. I didn't even think to pull my phone out. And it just highlights like when something crazy goes on, I don't know, you'd like, how do you
Yeah.
react? Like, what do you do?
Yeah. I definitely wouldn't film it. Yeah.
Ha, Xander found a picture. Xander, how do you do that? How do you work and do
Yeah.
that? He just posted a picture of the
Yeah.
Starlink.
I should share it just so people don't think I'm crazy, but it's pretty wild. It's
I would
it's a
be wild to see and not know what that is.
to not know what it was and be a person that's like, I don't know. I feel like I'm relatively tapped into what's going on in the world. Yeah, we were losing our minds. Like he had 2 kids in bed and we definitely woke them up. Like it was almost like one of those things where it was like, go get Teddy. He's got to see this. you know, like go wake up the 3-year-old.
But it was fun the other
Yeah.
night. I was walking the dog and
Yeah.
the moon looked really big. So I went and got my kids and I was like, oh, let's go look at the moon. And then we caught the Atlas comet. So then that was exciting that we got to see the comet.
Oh, that
No,
is
No
That's way
UFOs.
more cool than what just turned out to be a row of satellites.
But I liked seeing that the girls got to see it.
Yeah. On the what is the closest thing in nature that you've seen to art?
All of it.
Yeah, but like the thing that I think inspires the most. Where you just
Just any moment where I'm in an area that is just big and I don't know. I felt that way like I did like some mountain climbing and just when I'm up on a
yeah.
mountain and you just are above the clouds, that was a spot when I couldn't even figure out how to replicate that.
I,
Oh, someone in the
I'm real close to that, Cassandra. It's like when you watch uh, sun, the shadows change as it's sunset and as the sun's getting lower on mountains. Or it could be on anything. The mountains are just the most accessible, things where I've seen it change the most.
yeah.
And just everything moves in front of you. It just completely becomes a different scenario very quickly.
Yeah.
Someone in the chat had a really good answer. Shells. I
I
like
like that.
it's a
Yeah.
good one. Shells are wild. They don't make any sense. I don't understand them.
Yeah. How is that naturally occurring?
How does that happen? Something fishy. Someone's cheating, right, Scott? There's no way that's magic.
Someone's cheating.
Yeah, someone's cheating. Yeah. Yeah. Cassandra, that's looking awesome. That's a great Haley Joel.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, the light it was hard to catch at first.
I think you killed it.
Trying to get that cold air coming out of his mouth now.
You should tag HJO Haley Joel Osmo. Osmo? Osmo?
Beautiful,
Os-
Cassandra.
yeah, it
Thanks.
Yeah,
really
it's really
is.
nice. Great likeness.
Yeah.
You guys know in that movie that I remember reading about this online that the color red is like kind of the big giveaway of like
Yeah.
symbolically. So if you ever do a rewatch of it, watch for any time you see anything red because that's like the color of ghosts in the movie essentially. Like that's one of your hints and signs of a
Really?
motif that Shyamalan used. Yeah, yeah. So like you'll notice like I'm only remembering the movie vaguely. It's been a long time since I've seen it, but like at one point there's a door that's locked that I can't remember if it's Bruce Willis is trying to get in or the kid or something like that. I think it's maybe Bruce
Yeah.
Willis, and the door handle is like a ruby red. That's like a glass red, old school 70s doorknob or whatever. But that's all very
Yeah.
intentional. It was just like a motif that Shyamalan used throughout the movie.
He's, I think, one of the most dogged on directors for how great the fact that his entire, like, I want to say nearly his entire career has been original stories.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Awesome. Um,
Yeah, I mean that guy set himself up in a tough way though, right? Like, the Sixth Sense broke huge, and then all of a sudden now everybody's like it's like give us something new but the same. Like we want there to be
yeah.
a head spinning surprise, And if I recall correctly, the very next thing he came out with was Unbreakable, which was his love letter to comics, and so I feel like kind of the big surprise of that one was you kind of all of a sudden it
Yeah.
dawning on the viewership as you're watching it about 45 minutes in, where all of a sudden you realize like, oh, this is a movie about like
Yeah.
kind of like treating comic books as almost like a holy kind of literature that
Yeah.
has power and resonance, and so in that sense I still think it's a pretty remarkable movie, but it didn't have that kind of like brain teaser hook that
Mm-hmm.
Sixth Sense
Yeah.
had, right? And
Tarantino
then
said he thought Unbreakable was one of the best films ever made.
no kidding, yeah,
I
yeah, so
Yeah.
love that
I
movie.
like I like it a lot.
Yeah.
But then Signs, was I
Oh,
think
I think Science is one of the best.
Oh, that
really
movie was so good.
Yeah.
okay. But see, one of the criticisms against it that I do think is a little bit fair is that if you think of I'm not going to call it Deus Ex Machina, but like the way the aliens are defeated, when you think of how much of that substance is on our planet, I resonated with critics who are kind of like, we're supposed to believe we're about to be conquered by an alien force that didn't realize that, you know,
70% of
this
our planet is
planet,
water.
this planet that is mostly water is like absolutely lethal to them. You know, like I thought that was a fair
Yeah.
criticism.
Do you know what this is just a fun thing that I learned recently, and I'm sure a lot of people already knew it, but you said Deus Ex Machina. Do you know what
Mhm.
the like origin of that phrase is?
I just know it's Latin God in the machine, but
Yeah.
no, I don't know the origin
Okay,
of it.
so yeah, so it's God, yeah, dead on, God from the machine, or God from the machinery, and it comes back from it goes back to Greek theater when
Mhm.
they would do plays, they would use an actual crane for the God character to be
Mm,
like held over the scene or like
mhm.
over the stage. Um and and then that God would obviously like cause some sort of like intervention in the scene. And so that's
Or
the
or
term.
find or like, you know, provide like the solution, right? You know, because that's kind of the
Yeah,
criticism
exactly. Yeah,
against a
like
Deus
say
Ex
it's like
Machina
the
is kind of
this
like,
yeah.
yeah, the author has sort of built up like a, how are we going to resolve this? And then the answer is, oh, well, one of the gods steps in, you know. So yeah, it's definitely the way we use the phrase now is, you know, kind of shorthand for like lazy storytelling, right? Like, oh, I don't know quite how to solve this, so let's.
Sometimes though, when that happens, when there's like a good one where I'm like, I don't know how you'd even come up with something good. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I think the lazy version of it is the character you thought was dead is not dead, right?
Mm,
That's
mhm,
clearly lazy,
No, the
right?
lazy is when they wake up and it's all a dream.
mhm.
Okay.
Like Dallas.
I was just
Yeah,
gonna say,
like
I can only
Dallas.
think of a couple. That's like Jacob's Ladder, right? Isn't that?
Well, the most famous, and this is where Cassandra and I are dating ourselves again,
Yep,
because
yep. We're
I
old.
was a kid, I will note, when that happened, but
I
it
was a
was,
kid.
you know, like our parents were all talking about it, you know, because they had had this lengthy plot line on the soap opera, evening soap opera Dallas. And then all of a sudden it was just revealed at the end that it was all just a dream. And even
But the
back then,
characters had been killed off. Like,
right,
Yeah.
right, yeah. And then the character was alive, and people were like, that sucks. That's a terrible ending.
Yeah.
America spoke loudly with one voice on that one. Like, that was awful.
Really? Yeah. Yeah, I can see that being lazy. I've definitely seen movies where I'm like, okay, how are they gonna do this? How are they gonna get them out of this?
my pet peeve is when a movie, like the whole premise is upon based upon bad communication. Like if they had had one
Yes.
conversation, the
Oh,
whole thing wouldn't happen. And I'm
Yeah.
like, are you telling me we're gonna go through all of this because they just failed to have this one conversation? That is to me the biggest turnoff for a movie where I'm like, nah, I'm not okay. Like, no.
Cassandra, that is, you just nailed it right there of why most American sitcoms, like, I can't bother watching anymore. And it is
Mhm.
exactly that thing of like, anytime there's some kind of a crisis where it's like, if these two people just talk to each other for half a minute, we could
Yeah,
solve this, you know,
yeah.
like had an
I can't
actual
handle it.
adult conversation. Yeah, drives me crazy.
One of the best on that topic though, there's a movie that makes is a great kind of zany comedy about geopolitics that is about miscommunication. Have you ever heard of the movie In the Loop?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, haven't heard that one.
British comedy starring James Gandolfini. It's one of the later films in his repertoire before he passed
Huh.
away. It's
Uh-huh.
fantastic, and it's about like a global conflict that occurs because of just the characters are not communicating.
Well, that probably is kind of accurate, but just
It's
more between
amazing. I highly recommend it.
non-political situations, I feel like there should be better communication.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But it's very real. It's very real. I would say 90% of the problems in my life are related to communication. Right?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I don't know how many times I've been mad at somebody and then found out like, oh, they just didn't mean that. What I thought they meant, they didn't mean.
Yeah, it just makes me crazy when it's the whole premise.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But believe it or not, that's often the whole premise of my life.
Well, I want to help you through that
Yeah.
then. Like,
Yeah,
let's
no, I appreciate it, but it is what it is. Yeah. So
Ooh,
Scott,
John,
what
you got that
yeah.
expression beautifully.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Hmm.
Spot
Yeah,
on.
she looks terrified.
Oh, this the highlights that you're capturing now too. Great likeness.
It's great.
Hmm.
Thanks. I'm not real happy with it.
What?
I don't know. I don't know.
Oh, I think
I don't
you
know.
should be okay with it. But
Sometimes when I go back in and I like my drawings better without adding so much color to them, so much
mm,
finish to them. And sometimes they just, I don't know, they seem a little overworked.
it doesn't feel overworked yet. But I can understand, I can understand what you mean.
Well, thanks for saying so.
Yeah.
Thanks for noticing. Gosh, how many people in here don't know who Eeyore is?
Eeyore?
Eeyore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Classic.
That was my
Love Winnie
dog.
the Pooh.
The old dog that me and Gianna had that we adopted. The person who was supposed to, so I found the dog, like just like roaming, and I just like pulled over my truck and was like, "Come on, buddy, get in." And she just got in my truck, and I was like, "Oh no, what do I do with this pit bull now?"
Hmm.
But she was we were gonna give her to another house this because we had two dogs already, and the person named the dog, and we got the dog used to the name, and then they bailed,
Oh.
and so we named the dog Brookie, and it was this dog that we never wanted to name her Brookie. In her heart, she was an Eeyore.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah, it's the Eeyore the dog for sure. Yeah.
Scott, I'm impressed you got the likeness of Patrick Swayze. I think we drew Patrick Swayze in here one time, and mine was horrible. I found it so hard to get his likeness.
Well, thank
Did we
you.
do
I feel like
Roadhouse?
I was gonna say that'd be the one to do, right? The greatest Swayze movie of all time,
I don't
easily.
think we've done it. I don't think we've done it, but I think a Roadhouse night is in, and not a old
Yeah,
versus new, just a old Roadhouse.
just old school. Yeah, the original.
Yeah, no Gene.
Um, Thank you for saying that, Cassandra, because just much like John, right? I'm feeling this discontent of like, oh, I don't like this or this or this. But I will say what's helpful with him is in drawing him, I'm learning part of what gives him his distinctive look, right? Like,
Hmm.
man, does this guy have a square jaw to
Furrowed
end all
brow.
square jaws, right? Yeah, the furrowed brow and like
And
super high chiseled cheekbones.
and
And
he has a pretty prominent chin.
yeah, he really does. No, I mean, on every level, I was actually, as I was drawing him, I kept thinking, how did he not beat out Michael Keaton for the '89 Batman movie?
I
Like
know. He would look great in a Batman mask.
he would look, he's got the jaw for it. He kind of has the smolder for it, like, yeah, I think Swayze would have been great in that role. And who knows, for all I know, he screen tested and was a finalist. I have no idea, but
I always love
uh,
finding out who tried for parts. That I always think that that's fun.
you know what, the one that blew my mind the most, and
Hmm.
since this name's already been mentioned, so go ahead if you don't know it already. Guess who might be like a pretty, in my opinion, off kilter choice for the Marvel Captain America? The guy who was the finalist along with Chris Evans, and then Chris Evans
Oh,
beat him out.
I think I
You know,
know this.
you know who it is?
Yeah.
Because when I heard it, I was like, wait, what? And
Can I
then it
say it?
actually, yeah, go
Danny
for it. Who?
Danny DeVito.
Jim
No, but
Kaczynski, right?
it was John
John
Krasinski who
Kaczynski. I
plays
always think of
Jim from The
Jim from The
Office.
Office.
Yeah.
Now, keep in mind when that news came out, that was before, I mean, years before Krasinski went on to get totally yoked and play
Yeah.
what's this Jack Reacher? No, not Jack Reacher,
Yeah.
but you know what I'm
What?
talking
Yeah.
about, the Amazon Prime series. It's the
Well,
guy who
and
wrote
the
Hunt for
Yeah.
Red October,
yeah,
Jack
Tom
something, but
Tom Clancy book stuff.
in Tom Clancy book, exactly. Yeah. So anyway, but so it turns out now Krasinski, it's not quite as unthinkable, but at the time when he was being considered, I was like, that was a lot of faith on Marvel's part to look at scrawny, kind of dorky, awkward, who we all adored, but Jim from The Office, and to
Hmm.
think that he
That's
was potentially
It's like
going to
Chris
lead
Pratt.
the.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Even still, Chris Pratt at least I think has always had kind of your kind of I don't know. To
He was
me,
like
he
the
looks a
dopey
little
Parks and
more.
Rec guy
Oh,
though.
Oh, I'm
He,
gonna
he
send you
was jokey
some.
Parks, right? But still, but like he had, I think he had some presence and some size to him and everything. I mean, John Krasinski back in the Office days was just downright skinny. You know what I mean? So it was just pretty
Mm-hmm.
wild that they were looking at him that carefully and thought, no, he could be the guy.
John Krasinski was in Leatherheads, right? With George Clooney.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah. Yep.
Well,
Not the film that
Yeah.
most people think of when they hear his
Yeah, that
name,
was a
John.
wild, that was a
That was a
wild
deep cut
pick.
right there.
Yeah.
that's great.
A movie that probably has like a, yeah, like a middle of the road Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah,
Nobody's
at
really thought
best.
about it.
No, but I've
That
seen
was
that
an
one.
amazing deep
That was
cut.
a fun one though.
Yeah. Um,
I heard he got like he was really like it really upset him that he didn't get the Captain America part. Like it affected him.
Oh,
oh,
really?
Yeah, like he
can
really
you
thought
imagine?
this was his big break, like this was going to be everything. And then when he didn't get it,
Oh,
like he couldn't watch the Marvel movies for a very long time because he was so upset that he didn't get it.
I have
Wow.
I have beef with John Krasinski.
What?
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
tell.
He's not as smart or not as creatively prolific as everyone thinks. And also how nauseating would it be if you're like a person that lives in LA and you're friends with John Krasinski and he's been on maybe the most popular sitcom of all time and now he's heartbroken that he doesn't get to be Captain America. You'd be like, John, go cry me a river. No, the thing that bugs me about John Krasinski is he is credited for creating The Quiet Place
Mm-hmm.
and it
Yes,
being
that has always been my understanding. Yeah.
and it being his vision
Uh-huh.
and it being his idea and everything. And the truth is, he had nothing to do with it. He did not write it. He basically was just the star that identified that it was good, and that's it. Like
I
he
mean,
didn't write it. He didn't create it. But he's credited. Like when you see like there was the trailer for like the newest one, and they're like from the mind of John Krasinski. You're like,
that's
"Hmm."
like A
You're
Nightmare
like
Before
he didn't
Christmas
do it. Yeah,
kind of thing.
it's kind of what?
It's like A Nightmare Before Christmas, how Tim Burton gets all the credit.
Okay.
Like everyone always assumes like he directed and he did it, and he was
Yeah.
just a producer on the project.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I've had that experience actually happen with a celebrity before where I edited a project and then that project got picked up by a famous person to produce it.
Mm-hmm.
I won't say their name. It's Kevin Hart. But um, and they basically were like, okay, how can we ditch as many people as possible that were from the original project? And you're like, do you not understand that? Like, what? I don't know. It's like, I don't know. I guess that's like, I'm just like so, um, that just bothers me. I'm just
It's
like, why would you not
disappointing.
have
That's
respect?
disappointing.
Why would you not have respect for like like the creators of it? You know what I mean? Stranger Things. Stranger Things is pretty much an entirely stolen IP. The Duffer Brothers stole it from a third party that created it with them, which they've been in lawsuits like basically ever since the show started over it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It's not to say that these aren't great IPs. It's one of those things where you're like, guys, there's enough to go around. You know?
But is there?
Yeah, that's what Kevin Hart said. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Are you
Well,
guys
I'm sorry to me. That stinks though.
no, it honestly things like that I learned very early on when I was in my early 20s that whenever anything gets picked up, you better be ready for it to go away. And if you're lucky, it'll stick around and that's great, you know. Um I want to tell everybody start posting your artwork to Instagram. It's hashtag Drawing Hive 225 and hashtag Drawing Hive and at Visual Arts Passage. Start posting it now. We're gonna head over there in 4 or 5 minutes.
Still disappointing, you know?
What's that?
Well, just like I know that that's stuff that happens, but it's still stinky to find out, you know.
Yeah, and and sometimes it's way more complicated than it appears, and it's just people's hands are tied.
Mm,
So, it's like they need people that are part of the guild, things like that. And that's totally understandable. It's just like, you're not in the guild, whatever. Like, um, but I'm usually just bothered when I've like, I don't know. I actually, to be totally honest, I've ever all any project I ever do now, I'm always like, I need to think about just this project. I need to not think about what I think this project is going to create for me.
mm,
Do you know what I mean?
mm-hmm.
Because like you're working on this project, just focus on this. That's okay. And then, I don't know, like one foot in front of the other kind of thing. I was pretty mad at him. I'm not gonna lie.
I feel like you're entitled. I'm
but I mean, like, I don't know. I knew, I do that with any project now because I learned that early on in the commercial world that like that's just not how it works.
mm-hmm.
Especially when you're like talking about teams of people and the budgets are getting larger and larger. Um, I don't know. Have you guys ever worked on? I mean, that's probably a little bit more rare. Have you ever worked on a project that became bigger and then they like reevaluated whoever was on it? I don't. Cassandra, that wouldn't line up with.
No, it's not really like
There's never a yeah. I used to do spec work for like a lot of ad agencies, and I'd be like, you know, they would I would do spec work for like a potential client, and then I'd say like, if you get the client for this spec job, you have to hire me. And I got burned enough times where like they were like, "Oh my God, you're not gonna believe it. We got Under Armour. Isn't that crazy?" And they'd be like, "But just like there's this deal. They're being really difficult, and I'm so sorry." And then you could hear it coming, of
ugh,
them to be like, "We're gonna do it on our own." And so then it became the thing where I'd be like, "Look, here's the deal. You can pay me for the spec work, and if you get the client, I'll do it for free." I would always offer that. Nobody ever takes you up on that deal.
do they not believe you? Like I would
No, I think that it's just not the way it works. They're just like, we don't spend money on spec work. But I mean, I'm talking about ad agencies, so they're just cutthroat. They're like, don't ever do spec work for an ad agency. If any, if anybody ever is approached to do that,
Yeah,
terrible idea. Yeah, they have
I, I agree with
tons of
that.
money. Yeah,
If you're gonna do spec work, make it for like a local theater or something.
or
Yeah,
for somebody cool.
Somebody who
nonprofit.
doesn't have any money.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd be worried. What would happen is so you'd have a friend. I would have a friend. They'd be like a creative director at an agency, and they'd be like, "We're wanting to do this thing for this company. Can we don't really know what to do. I know how bad you want to work in this like space. Not like just getting editing because I was editing at the time, but they'd be like, we know you want to like edit like at one point it was like I wanted to edit stuff that had, like car crashes in it, and like this is gonna have a car crash, and so you'd be like, let's do some spec work, and we would do it, and then they'd end up in a spot where like they're just like, I'm sorry, but like the only way we're gonna get this client is if we do it this way, and the clients, and they do this amazing job where they're like, it's not me, it's actually the client. And you're like, okay, I'll take your word for
hmm,
it. Yeah, but you learn your lessons, you learn what works for you.
yeah, we all have gotten our burns, that's for sure.
I try not to be bitter about it, which I have a pretty easy time doing now. Even though maybe I sounded bitter, but I'm not. I'm just trying to get laughs, to be honest.
Well, no, I think it's a matter of like, okay, it's all a learning process, and we figure out what is realistic for us, like that seemed like could be a good opportunity, and we learned the hard way that it's not, and we can help share that information. So, but I feel like everybody's unique too. If you're
Yeah.
gonna have some ones where you're like, yeah, maybe I shouldn't have done that one because that didn't work out well.
Yeah. Yeah, that happens all the time.
All right.
Everybody, are
I
you
want to
all
see
ready?
everybody's drawings
I
now.
was just gonna say, is everybody ready to head to Instagram?
Yes.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, we're gonna need just a moment.
Are you gonna give us a fake out where I like put my brush down and then pick my brush back up?
No, pick your brush back up.
I wanted you to focus in on Cassandra's and Scott's piece.
Yeah, we will. We will.
And John's.
I only say that because I like mine now.
That's good.
It's always tricky to do this right. So
It's better than it was.
here we go. All right, some great stuff, some creepy stuff.
Ooh, cool, Charlotta.
Nice.
There's our student.
Wow,
Awesome.
that looks so good. Nice. Oh, that's so cool,
Ugh,
Jack.
creepy.
Great stuff.
Oh my gosh, your
Mhm.
color choices. That
You go,
teal
Jack.
on the right.
Oh, that's good.
That's great.
Oh my
Nice,
gosh.
Yeah, that's
Eric.
nice.
Nice, Eric.
That's so cool.
Good
Great job.
stuff.
Very fun.
Oh my
Ooh,
gosh.
Who's that?
Felicity, that's
Felicity.
awesome.
Way to go. Got the paint out.
Love it.
Julian,
Nice,
amazing.
Julian.
Oh, that's nice.
Nice, John.
Hmm.
Really nice. Good
That's
job, Xander.
Yeah,
perfect
nice,
jaw
Xander.
lines.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great job.
Oh,
Ooh,
that's awesome.
Wow,
that's
really well done.
fantastic. Oh, that's so creepy.
That's
That's
fun.
Good stuff.
Drawing.
really nice. Oh, Nicole, that's cool.
Spooky.
That's cool.
Great shapes.
Loosen
Nice,
up a
Dad.
bit, Nicole. I
Nope.
think
Oh,
we'll-
that's lovely.
Nice.
Enough.
Oh, I love how you did that across both pages.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Man, everybody did all the reference tonight too. It's kind of interesting to see that there's not
Wow.
like a one clear favorite.
Dang, Julie.
Wow. Yeah,
Wow.
nice.
That's
Yeah, that was the one I wanted to get to next. That's such a fun one. Man, you all made it look so good.
So creepy.
So good.
nice.
Great job. Yeah,
Very good.
nice.
I like that.
Very good.
Well done.
Really nice. Ooh, that's so good. It's so creepy. Great job. Thank you, Jeff. Our night isn't complete without that.
Yep.
I love the
That's so
top one.
good. Oh, is
So
it-
great.
Oh, nice.
Ghost Rider up there.
Nice. Ghost Rider. Didn't think about that one.
Great job. Ooh, good, Karen. Really cool. Really good expression on that.
Oh, wow.
Great job. Good drawing.
Thanks.
Yes.
Mhm.
Still creepy. Oh, Junie. so
Page 7.
And
Nice.
I want to pause on June's image just for 1 second and just say, for those of you stuck in for the whole episode tonight, early bird enrollment for Visual Arts Passages online art classes starts November 5th. It's going to be a huge deal. All right. We usually only max give out $200 off. It's going to be $400 off.
What?
$400 off. And if you sign up during the first week, starting November 5th, you can lock in that price, $400 off, for the rest of your enrollment.
Whoa, that's huge.
We will
That's a deal.
not do it again this year. The only way you get it is if you sign up that week. So only for the core hive get to know about that.
And
Anyway,
Timmy, you should say we did it one other time and we sold everything out. So
we did the last time we did it, it sold out really
2 years
fast.
ago.
And
Yeah.
it was a nightmare. And we both were like, wouldn't it be nice to do a nightmare sale again? So anyways, we're doing that. So anyways, thank you, June, for letting me use your artwork as the marketing. Oh, that's awesome, Xander.
That's great.
Little puff of cold air. That's a great touch.
Yeah.
Oh, great job.
Mhm.
Really nice. Oh, okay. That's awesome,
That's
Nicole.
fun. That's great. Good
Oh,
stuff.
Oh, nice.
oh, Paul. Great
Nice.
drawing. Really good drawing. That's staying creepy. This is gonna haunt me. That's
Nice.
Wow.
good. Really
Oh
nice.
man, I love that. Gary.
Nice one, Gary.
Great job, Gary.
Well done.
Oh,
That's
that's
fun.
cool.
That's the hand.
Yeah,
Nice. Good
that's
stuff.
really
Mm.
cool.
That's beautiful, Chuck.
Wow.
Chuck, I love
I
that.
want to
Way
give
to
Chuck,
go,
I
Chuck.
want to give
Chuck,
Chuck the whoa.
That's the
Chuck leaned
one.
into the romance.
That's a beautiful piece.
That's great.
Really cool.
Oh,
Hey,
that's
Marcy.
awesome to see.
Oh,
Oh,
I
hell yeah.
love that, Marcy. Really nice.
Awesome stuff.
Hey,
Oh, that's
Sally.
great job, Sally.
I was like, oh my
Yeah,
God.
for a second I was like, wow, they really nailed it.
They got a lot further than I.
Yeah.
Damn. That would have been awful if we'd all just been like, wow, that's amazing. That's great. Oh, fun.
Nice,
Fun
Dan.
stuff.
Big boo.
Yeah,
Great job.
good stuff. Ooh, nice.
Oh, that's looking good, Rebecca.
Rebecca's Factory.
Great
Nice
job.
stuff. Amazing.
Ooh, that's creepy. That's cool.
Wow, Jeff. Nice, Nicole.
Y'all got a lot of work done.
Yeah, a lot of
Good
people
job.
did,
Seriously.
didn't they?
A lot of people getting multiple
Ooh,
pieces
those
done.
are fun eyes.
Yep.
Whoa, Sally.
Oh,
Oh, wow.
whoa.
Nice,
Wow,
Sally.
Sally.
Good,
Sally,
Sally.
that
That's
is
great.
fantastic. Look at that texture, y'all.
Yeah.
Put that up on the wall.
That's like Lucian Freud texture.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Nice.
Good job.
Good stuff.
Really
All right.
great.
That's it. This is the last one for the Halloween episode. That was fun.
That was
Thank you,
really
everybody
fun.
who tuned in. Really appreciate it. Fun night.
Very fun
Everybody,
night, everybody.
have a safe and fun Halloween. We're not going to
Happy
be on next
Halloween.
Thursday. We'll post some reference. So if you want to draw something next week, go check it out on the photo reference page. But we're taking a week off.
That's right. Cassandra and Scott, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, John. Thank you,
Thanks,
Timmy.
thanks for
All
having
right,
us.
bye.
Timmy, I'm debating if I'm going to thank you for the magician act, but
No, it's fine. I'm going to wake up at 2 a.m. and
it
think
was
about
a
it.
it was a
No,
good.
I'm going to
job.
thank you, Timmy. I loved it. Thank
It
you.
was very entertaining.
Sure.
10
And way to
o'clock.
save
10
that money
o'clock.
so you could give it
10
to the
clubs.
discount for
10
everybody.
clubs. 10 clubs is exactly what I said.
I
All
wrote
right.
it down right there.
Yeah, it's exactly. You wrote it down. All right.
All right, everybody.
All right. Later.
All right.
Happy
Good night,
Halloween.
everybody.
Happy
Happy
Halloween.
Halloween.
See you, Scott.
Bye.